blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day, whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom. This podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Before we jump into this episode, I would like to invite you to join this community to hear conversations with other cleft moms and advocates that will help you feel supported along your journey. All I want you to do is click on the Facebook group page that is linked in the episode notes. You can speak directly to the guests from this podcast, ask questions, and talk to a community of cleft moms that are eager for answers, but also willing to help. As a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. So in thinking back on my ultrasounds while I was pregnant, I remember that Giselle consistently had her thumb in her mouth and in her face. And my brother used to suck his thumb. So when Giselle was born, I wasn't really shocked that she was drawn to her thumb. So after learning that she was going to have surgery, I was beside myself and thinking about how I was going to keep her thumb out of her mouth, right? It's different when you have a passy because you can just take it off or take it away. But this is something that was attached to her. So she had it 24 hours a day. And so I just started doing some digging around, and I discovered no-nos, and people talk about that frequently. And then I also saw Cozeecoos, which I thought was really interesting as well. And initially it was synonymous, right? Like that no-nos and Cozeecoos, I just thought that they were the same things. And we'll talk a little bit more about them, of course. But I learned more about the post-arm restraints for children that were going to have surgery to keep Giselle's fingers out of her mouth and her hands away from her face. So I didn't even realize that they were two different products, one given to you by the hospital and one that you can purchase. But I purchased one, and it was so comfortable for Giselle to use, the Cozeecoo that is, and it was packaged thoughtfully and arrived on time. And I'm so excited for two reasons. Today we are going to give away a Cozeecoo to two families. But before we go there, I would like to introduce the owner, founder, inventor, creator extraordinary of the Cozeecoo. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. This is beautiful.
So I think that the title inventor is so cool. So
thank you. I'm a bit proud myself, I must say. It's been a journey figuring that one out, though. I don't know, where should we start? The very beginning?
Yeah. Did you want to be an inventor? Was that something that was
As a child, I definitely did. But as a teenager, I wanted to be a fashion designer. And so I really went on that track. I have 15 years experience as a custom dressmaker. And so when my little one was born, he ended up having severe allergies and eczema triggers where he could not stop scratching his face for a single moment. And this caused bleeding scratches and skin rubbed raw. He also had weeping skin, and I was in a desperate situation, and I just helped him the best way I knew how, which was with a garment. So I literally went into my closet, I grabbed an old maternity dress, and I just started cutting it up. And I created this Cozeecoo, and I never sewed so fast in my life because the alternative at the time was me just holding down his hands 24/7 so that he couldn't scratch his face. Um, and so when I lifted my hands off and he couldn't reach, but he could still move his arms and elbows, he couldn't stop smiling because I couldn't stop smiling. And it was just, it worked. And it meant so much at that moment because I couldn't put him down before that. I couldn't change his diapers. I couldn't put him in a car seat. I couldn't care for my 3-year-old. It was a good thing my husband was there because it was just, we couldn't function. We couldn't sleep. And so with this Cozeecoo, it just gave us our daily routine back. It took away the immense isolation, and it changed everything so much that our doctors were like, you need to sell this. I knew in that moment I was given a responsibility. And at that time, we thought that we were a very rare case because I had never heard anything along the lines of what we were going through. Our doctors kept saying, I don't know what this is. No one even mentioned the word allergies until even after I made the Cozeecoo. It was just, and then since having the Cozeecoo, we were able to get sleep and we were able to get energy and it wasn't until I saw Cleft and Palate babies and saw that they used the no-nos or the elbow immobilizing arm braces that I had a shock factor. And I just went, oh my gosh, this is so much better. This could just change things for these babies, because I found out that they're worn for 2 to 6 weeks post-surgery, which is just a long time. We launched in 2021 with the Cozeecoo, and so now I've learned a lot since then. And we've done some studies just asking our clients and patients from doctors if their babies could remove the arm braces or the Cozeecoo, and 93% of babies can remove the arm braces. They also chew on the Velcro, and there can be and have been repeat surgeries because while our little ones can hold their arms up, they can't keep it up, and then it falls on their face, and it's just not great.
Yeah.
Obviously. And so, yeah, with the Cozeecoo, babies can touch, like they can move their arms and elbows in a circular motion, but they can't reach above the chest, so they can't touch their faces. They can also move their hips and legs, which is really a big deal for swaddling. So the Cozeecoo is not a swaddle. It's considered a wearable blanket or a sleep sack because the body is not compressed. And because of that, you don't get hip dysplasia, which is when the hips can move out of joint. And it's just, in so many ways, so much better. So at this point, we're really just trying to keep up to help all the babies that need this product. Yeah, I stopped being a fashionist because I was like, this is clearly something that's needed.
Well,
and people have gone on to make dresses, but nobody is making this, and it's very much needed. So now we're looking into many different departments, babies with heart surgery, babies who have cochlear hearing surgeries, basically any condition or situation where a baby should not be touching their face, whether it's skin irritations, for medical devices like feeding or breathing tubes, or post-surgery. This helps babies to go through their healing journey, and they can sleep in it because they can reposition. They can wear it in a car seat, which for me, that was a very big deal. My little one knew that if he was in the car, I couldn't reach him, and that was his opportunity.
oh,
So
wow.
it was big. Oh, yeah. They're smart. They are so smart.
Yeah.
Yep. And diaper changing, I didn't need another person to hold him down, right? It was, I could loop my arm through and do what I needed to do, and Everybody was safe and I could just breathe again. I think for me it was the one word. Someone asked me once, what is the one word you would say a Cozeecoo is? And I just said relief.
Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, but I need a little bit of help. If you're listening to this on the Apple Podcast app or YouTube, you may see a follow plus sign or a subscribe button. If you're able to, it would mean the world to me if you could follow or subscribe. That's the best way to support this show. If you subscribe, I'm able to show it to potential guests or different brands. It helps to grow the show and reach more communities to continue building awareness about the cleft lip and palate journey on a global scale. Thank you so, so much. Back to the conversation. Wow, that is powerful. I don't know how much you want to share about your son's journey as well, but how old was he when you discovered this, when you created this for him?
He was 2 months old, and I now believe that this was so. Before that, I had mastitis, which is when there's a duct in the breast that is backed up. And so a lot of doctors will prescribe antibiotics. And I was given a dose. It was called dicloxacillin, a type of penicillin. And I believe that is what threw off his gut ecosystem, as well as my own a bit, because just a day and a half after he started having reactions to foods that I was eating because he was solely breastfed. So it started with this little red mark on his chin. And I will just say I was a pretty obsessed mom, and I was just really involved with everything, caretaking with this little one. And so for me, having that rash, I was like, no, there's no reason why that should be there. If he drooled, like I patted it off. There was just like, I wouldn't say it's a good thing that I was so obsessed, but I was obsessed. So I told the doctor, okay, he said, it'll air out, it'll be fine. I said, okay, but I didn't believe him. And it just kept getting worse. It just kept getting worse and worse. And I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how. My mama heart just said, this has to be food related. And we saw other doctors and no one would see us because it wasn't life-threatening. And so we got onto a list to get to a dermatologist at the Seattle Children's Hospital, but it wasn't for 2 months. And so every single day his skin was getting worse. And every day I couldn't cope. I already was, I used the word obsessed, but like when it came to his medical journey, I literally couldn't talk about anything else. My husband was like, this is unhealthy. Like you need to be able to show up in other ways. And I couldn't do it. I just literally couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But that's what was needed for me to find our answers. And I just started eating buckwheat, basically, and then I would add a food. And if he reacted, then I would continue eating it. If he reacted poorly, then I would cut that out of our diet. I say our diet because, again, he was solely breastfeeding. And now I know that's called an elimination diet. At the time, I was just experimenting. But I will say if you get to the point where you're desperate and it's a very severe situation, I would do that with a dietitian. I would do that alongside your doctor, and perhaps a naturopath if you can. And I also have a blog on Cozeecoo's website. If anyone wants to read it, it's our full story of everything I did and everything I learned on that journey. But yeah, we pinpointed all of his allergies. We went through a skin prick test and verified them. There are such things as non-IEG allergies, and those are rashes or eczema that you get on the skin. Those cannot be tested for because they don't make antibodies for us to test in the blood, or through the skin prick test. So a skin prick test or a blood test will only pick up on true allergens that are called IEG allergies, and those can be anaphylactic. what's interesting, and remember, I am not a doctor, I'm just a mother who went through this, but I want to tell everyone that because a lot of this information is being figured out. So with babies, if they have severe eczema and they're breastfeeding, they could have an anaphylactic allergy, but that doesn't develop until they're children. So it shows up as severe eczema. And then, so what's great is you can pinpoint those through breastfeeding. You can pinpoint those through skin prick tests and the blood tests before they ever get to that point, before they ever have it themselves. And that's what we did, which was a great way to find out, because I feel that the gut ecosystem was harmed in the beginning. We are building it up now and it's working, which is wild. It's just, I love that we now know that's possible, because when my son was going through it, that just wasn't information that was readily available. It wasn't information that a lot of our doctors understood. We're doing challenges, building it up. And
how old is he now?
He's doing wonderful. He's 5.
Oh, wow.
He's 5 years old. He's doing great.
So you said that you're building that up. Is his skin allergies still the same, or are they more controlled now, or what is that like for him now?
Now he can have eggs, which is amazing. He couldn't before. He can have gluten, which he couldn't before, corn, has eaten dairy and soy, but he still gets reactions if he has too much. Dairy is probably the worst for him. But his anaphylactic allergies are tree nuts, peanuts, shellfish, and it was eggs, but not anymore. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, that's really great news, because I know Giselle has some eczema. It's not anything that isn't controllable at this point, but that was definitely something that was a concern for me when she was first born. But she's definitely it wasn't nearly as bad as her being born with the cleft palate. I was really grateful for that, but it's definitely something that I did think about. And I was also pumping in the beginning, and I told myself with all the things that we were going through, I tried like a day of doing like an elimination diet, but at whatever I was going through, I didn't have the ability I was barely eating anyway. It's really challenging for me to go through an elimination diet, because I always wondered, is it the coffee or is it the dairy or all these things and during that time I was barely surviving. But I encourage anyone to also go through that. As you shared also, we both did it ourselves, but you may want to consult with someone that may be able to support you in that journey. And so you mentioned as well, like you realized or you stumbled across the fact that in the Cleft community, we use no-nos a lot for post-op. And how did you find that out? And because this is such a niche community, right? I didn't know about anything about clefts until I had a child that was born with a cleft. And how did you stumble upon that information?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was very isolated. I isolated myself, but I would find myself on Instagram just to like be part of the world, I suppose. And I connected with mothers, and I would say, so while I was figuring out the Cozeecoo, I created it in 2019. I perfected it for a year, and then I took a year to build the business around it. And then when I was ready to start asking others where this could help, I just kept getting so much incredible validation. And I had mothers that I had seen on Instagram, and I said, hey, would you be up for trying this out just to see if it's something that could help? And just the responses were amazing, just absolutely amazing. They were like, how can I support you? What can I do to help others to learn about this? And I mean, I had sessions. I was on Instagram just doing stories where I would have cry sessions because I was like, this is insane. I can't believe this is happening. And just I don't know, everything just started coming together and we just blew up. I think when you use it and you understand the value, I think people can even just see the value in it. Those who've gone through cleft journey as parents 50 years ago, they'll call me, or people now who have a cleft themselves and they're like, I saw the pictures of what I was given and this just looks so much more comfortable. And now we go to the American Cleft Palate and Craniofacial Association meetings. I have people who come up and just shake my hand. They're like, thank you for creating this for my patients. And it just, sometimes I have to go cry. I need to, and then I can come back. And it's just so much better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some babies want to use the no-nos for playing because they have their hands, but you still need to watch them so that they don't get it off and don't chew on it, etc. It's just, I don't know. When I saw the cleft community, it was actually a really big blessing because it was hard for me to jump into the eczema and allergy industry first. One, because there's not a lot of support there. And two, because I would see those stories amplified and there's a lot of trauma there. So for me to relive that story on multiple occasions, that was really tough for me. So going through the cleft industry first, it was a clear need. There were doctors who were like, yes, surgeons, yes, let's bring this on. We're now stocked in 9 U.S. hospitals and 1 Guatemala cleft clinic, nonprofit. And then we're also in a nonprofit, working with a nonprofit in Zanzibar, Tanzania. And they love using the Cozeecoo for their patients. But what I got to see through the cleft world is that there is this very structured, amazing community where if a mother or parent caretaker finds out that their child has cleft lip and or palate, they then are just set up with a series of doctors. You're taken through what that means. There's a community that surrounds you. There's these beautiful nonprofits that surround you. There are these stuffed animals that have the cleft hand sewn on them just so you feel like you're part of something. And it's just so beautiful and so supportive. And it allows me to see what I need to help duplicate for the eczema and allergy world.
That's such a great point. I didn't think of it that way. Now, it's interesting, right? Because you would think that the eczema community would want something like this or welcome something like this. But yeah, and not in my efforts to not be too controversial here, right? I wanted to know how many versions of the Cozeecoo did you create before having this final design? And then also, are you still looking to improve it in any way or make any changes? Or is there a version 2 of this?
So in the beginning, that was my forte, if you will. I understand creating garments. I understand finding the fabrics. And so because it was for babies with irritated skin, I went all out. I went above and beyond. I got the Global Organic Textile Standard certified 100% cotton fabric and used that. I made sure that our snaps do not have nickel in them. Of course, there's no lead as well, but nickel is a common allergen amongst children. I created the labels and the inside interfacing, which is sewn in instead of the iron-on that has chemicals. So everything in this product is 100% organic cotton. And that was a big deal for me. Even the packaging is not recycled cardboard because recycled cardboard has condiments in it that can be allergens like mustard. Just, yeah, above and beyond. In that way, I made it for every baby. It's as good as it can get. And my son had 15 custom Cozeecoos within that year. So the first time I made it, it didn't have amazing snaps that you could open and shut it. It just was closed. And so changing him was quite a task. So I initially just cut the fabric and made little ties in the front so I could open and close it. And then eventually he would grow out of it because he's a baby. It takes 2 weeks and then they're bigger, or three months. So just depends on the growth spurts. But at first it was just that stretchy maternity dress that I had. It was bright red, reddish orange. And I didn't like that it was so bright because at first I would take him out in public with it and I was nervous. I didn't know what people would say. They're like, hey, what is he wearing? And people would stop me. They actually would stop me in the street. And not for the reason I thought, though. I thought they were going to say, what did you put on your baby? But they were like, where did you get that? I need one. My friend needs one of those. And when I told them I made it myself, they're like, oh my gosh, please get in touch. So let me know if you can make one, kind of thing, which was just blew me away. But yeah, eventually I put the elastic in the back so that it would stay up better. And I just started making sizes because you have to it's like ready to wear is what you call sizes that are already made. And so I wanted each Cozeecoo to at least be good for a baby for up to 3 months because they do grow and you do want them to have a lot of extra room. And I wanted the material to be breathable. That was very important to me because you go through summer and winter and a baby, they should be able to cool down and it shouldn't warm them up more than needed. I wanted stretchability, and so I also made sure it had knit loops so that it naturally stretched. Yeah, and it went all the way up to size 9 to 12. And then there was such outreach for a larger size. My son didn't use it after that I then had to also consulted the World Health Organization's child growth standards chart so that it was on a range of average in sizing. And so I had to consult that again in order to get the size 12 to 15, make sure that it worked. And that was amazing. But right now, which is wild to me, we are creating even larger sizes for children who have autism because it is a comforting device that just calms them down and help. And there are such things they're called papoose, and it's this board with 3 straps on it that if a child is in an emergency situation needs to be held down because they need treatment. This can be a little traumatizing because you're hardcore strapped down, whereas a Cozeecoo might be a better first step. And there are adults. We're making Cozeecoos for adults, and we've had wonderful feedback because eczema and topical steroid withdrawal syndrome is a big thing where people will just scratch all through the night and they can't stop. So this helps the subconscious scratching. And it's also for elders who might have an IV because while they're sleeping, they just automatically take it out. Your body doesn't want it in there. And so you take your IV out. And we are working through a lot of different options.
Yeah. I love that. I was going to ask because I feel like, so I may be wrong, but I feel like when I was looking for Giselle, and this was just a year ago, I only saw like the 2 sizes, 0 to 3, and then I think I saw, no, it couldn't be 0 to 3. It probably had to be 3 to 6 and then 6 to 12. Because we have a 6 to 12 fit because she was going to have surgery at 10 months. So I was like I was like you, where number one, the reason why I started this podcast was because of that. I couldn't stop talking about Giselle's diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I've had it's been a lot of tears, but it's also been really therapeutic to share her journey and also to listen to other stories and having them share their stories with me as well. And even listening to your story today about your son, even though it's different, it is something that we share in common, right? Like that we had something medically complex and something that we had to go through. But yeah, so I went right in and I got all the things like before she even, like before surgery, months before surgery. Yeah, I Don't know if those were just the only two options that were available or just in stock. I can't really remember, but
So when we first started, I don't believe the newborn preemie was out yet, but we had the 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12, and then the 12 to 15 came later.
wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I noticed also at one point you were completely sold out. Now, is that something because you're really particular about the material, or was it demand as you're sharing, like so many different communities are finding out about
We
it?
just, yeah, we just grew much more than we thought we were going to. So while we produce more than we think we're going to need, this is just blowing up, which is gorgeous. But yes, it is. My husband called it the best worst case scenario. I was like, because it feels terrible. You're wanting to help all these babies, and then all of a sudden you're sold out, and it just, oh, it rips my heart up. We just went all in, and we were producing in India, and so then we started producing in the US just so that we could get it. But now, in the very beginning when we launched, we were just a wearable blanket. But seeing where this was needed, and as a mother myself, I didn't learn about anything unless it was through the doctor, because that's was my go-to person, and we never were told about anything to keep my son's arms down, like not anything. And I wish that even they brought up the arm braces, honestly. Like,
Yeah, what
yeah.
was their response to that?
Unfortunately, it was, I don't know what this is. And
Oh,
the
they were just saying
conversation
that.
was left at that.
Oh,
So then we didn't get that dermatologist appointment until 2 months later. I ended up getting a dermatologist. Is that called? Just one in the neighborhood, because I wouldn't leave him alone. I kept just sending messages. I was like, please, I just need to see somebody.
I would
And
just show
yeah,
up.
nothing. Yeah, they prescribe. Yeah, just show up. Good for you. I just heard you. Good for you. Yeah, I should have done that.
No, I don't know what I would have done.
No, that would have worked. I feel like, how could you turn away a crying mom with her baby? No, yeah. Not that we're just telling everyone they should go do that to these poor doctors, but they're trying their best to. That's the thing, is it's just not protocol in colleges when they're learning about all of this, right? I feel like I went off a bit. My
That's
point
hard.
was, let's see. I was talking about I wanted the Cozeecoo to be in hospitals, and so now we're a medical device.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it took a year to figure that all out, but now we are registered and listed as a medical device with the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. Two parts. So is it covered by HSA and FSA now because of that, or?
So if you have an HSA card, because we're a medical device, so long as that card is like a Visa or a MasterCard or a card that we take, that'll definitely work. Unfortunately, and I'm sure this, with a lot of products, insurance companies just don't cover them. As a restraint, insurance companies don't cover restraints.
Yeah.
So the hospital would need to purchase it, or patients purchase it. A lot of nonprofits will make it available. But I do know there are some wonderful groups trying to make that change with law firms in each state. So it's a lot of growth that we need to go through for these little babies, because they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. And how did you initially get your product known to providers? As you've shared, this isn't really like information that's just readily available or taught or shown. It doesn't seem like it's been really made a priority. So what have you done as the creator and inventor and just as you said in your email, I love that mompreneur. What have you done to get the word out there?
This has been a really remarkable and organic growth. We have grown mainly from word of mouth. And so it matters a lot that if this helps your little one, that you tell others. And what has happened is the parents or the caretakers use it, And then they bring it to the baby is just using it in their doctor visits. And the
Mhm.
doctor goes, what is that? Or they tell them about it and they go, have you seen the Cozeecoo? They're like, what is this? Oh my gosh, the nurses are actually so great. They crack me up. They're like, this is amazing. I wish I invented it. They're so cute. I just love it. So then the doctors learn about it and the surgeons learn about it. And the surgeons, their time is just uh, all over the place. And so they look at it, they're like, yeah, that's great. Get it on, bring it in. It's like a very quick, and then they move on to the next thing. And yeah, it just goes from there. So once the surgeon says, get this on our team, then I work with the hospitals to figure out how to become a vendor, which every hospital, every facility has their own process, makes it a little tricky, but I'm always willing to help figure it out. Really just how it's gone. And there are hospitals overseas that can't wait to have it, and we are going through the process to become a medical device in the EU. So that's what we're working on right now.
Well, that's beautiful. What were some things that you weren't expecting from creating this or just being in business? What are some things that like it's like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen?
Yeah, it's a lot. While I'm incredibly grateful for this responsibility, the first part for me was taking care of my baby. And through that, I was able to build this business for others. But it took a lot out of me. And part two was helping myself to heal. It made sense for me because I went through a medical journey with my little one. Then COVID happened. Then the wars started, and my family, we have family in Ukraine. We also have family in Israel. And it was just one thing after the next. And that was really hard to just feel so under attack. And I just had to breathe. Needed to figure out how to come back to getting out of fight mode. So I was in fight mode for so long that my hormones changed. And when that happens, it's a very physical experience. And it's easy to say, oh, this is my identity. Something's wrong with me. When in reality, you just need help. And asking for help is not giving up. Asking for help is not giving up. It's getting what you need so that you can continue. And that part too meant so much. And I think as moms, like we give and we do what's needed in the moment, no matter what. But eventually that'll catch up. And so, yeah, I am writing a part two blog right now, and it is for the moms because that's my perspective. That's what I know. Our bodies are so unique and wonderful and amazing, and I love celebrating them. At the same time, there are some tools that I want to share with everyone because it matters, and I know a lot of us need it after a medical journey with our little ones.
Yeah. I've heard and listened to so many different stories, and so I really appreciate you writing about your journey and all of this and just how to get help and how to access resources and just being a place where people can have their feelings validated. Because I think that sometimes I don't think like crazy is the best term to use necessarily. You can feel a little bit like out of yourself, and it's really having a child that is completely quote unquote normal is hard, right? And then adding on that extra layer of attention and need, yeah, you do become this different person. And it's okay to ask for help and to need someone to lean on or to get access to resources. And I think that even in building this podcast, that was like one of the reasons why I did it was to give you all a voice and but to also satisfy my own need to like to talk about things and to get things off my chest about everything that's been going on in my journey as a mother and appreciate that. And I hope that everyone does go to the blog and we'll make sure that we post it in the show notes so that they can access it and read.
Exactly, though. No, I related to a lot of what you just said. There is healing and sharing, and what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And So grateful to be part of it.
Thank you so much. So, what is the best advice that you would give someone that's trying to pursue like an invention or trying to create something new? As we've shared as well, right? Like you have the Cozeecoo. I started this podcast. Been on these like wild rides. What is the best advice that you would give for anyone trying to create something?
Keep going. And also, yeah, one thing I love, this is a quote: scared is what you're feeling, brave is what you're doing.
Mm.
I love that. That's by Emma Donoghue, who's an author, but just keep going. But also, big also, that doesn't mean work hardcore and don't stop. That means listen to your inner self, your intuition. If you need a chill day, if you need a week off, if you need to step back and just regain who you are, like keep going means do what you need to do to keep going. And that whole road could change. That's just, I don't know. You got to be one with your intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And connect with amazing people like yourself. Create your community. That's huge.
Yeah. I've been just in you saying that is so true. It's like even just in meeting you and meeting so many people, like I feel like you just build this like true bond and this true connection. Like it's even like it's so funny. I saw you at well, I believe it. What is it? ACPA, the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I'm like, not just you, of course, but it's like everyone, like people that I've spoken to and that I've known. I'm like, oh, I wish I was there.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. I love those conferences. And there's a global one too. I haven't been to that yet, but I can't wait.
Yeah, like I was totally like, those are my people. I want to be like, I had total FOMO.
You should absolutely come next year. It's in April. Oh, please. That would be beautiful.
Oh yeah, I'm not missing anything anymore. I'll be there.
Good. Yeah.
But yes, I'm actually gonna go to ClefCon too, which is next week. We're recording this pretty
Wonderful.
early, but yeah, so I'll be able to not have FOMO. But just in closing here, what has been your biggest lesson learned in your journey, maybe as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as all things? What has been your biggest lesson learned?
Your heart knows more than you think. You have to follow your heart. It's whether you want to call it your intuition, your inner guide, your heart, your just be your authentic, genuine self because that just it just blossoms. It's like this crazy energy, like manifestation happens all there. You have to let it open up.
Your heart knows. That's true. That's what I tell people too when they're thinking about like when any moment that you have to advocate for yourself or for your child, your heart knows. Yeah.
You,
So with that.
yes, as a mother, you advocate for your baby. Only you know them better than anyone else. And I will say that it is hard to go to all those doctor visits, but what I did learn was you could learn something through anyone, whether it's what not to do. The same person could give you good advice and bad advice. You have to listen to all of it. But in the end, if you want to keep that doctor, just have a really good communication with them. So long as you both feel respected and that you both feel heard, like that's a great union
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, I've said that as well. I always say take everything in. Like whether it's like good or bad, like you decipher, you learn from both. There's always something to take away. So I guess that's also a really big lesson learned as well. There's always something to learn.
Yeah.
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 So,
And it can be a lot when you're a mom,
yeah.
like dealing with all of that. So write things down or maybe record it or revisit it because it's a lot to take in when you have your baby with you at the doctor visits and whatnot too.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you know what I share with people too? Because some people are afraid to like record or not necessarily record, but write stuff down. And I don't be afraid to do that. I guess they
Yeah.
think so. I'm a note taker. If I don't write it down, I'm going to forget. That's one of the things.
Same.
Like that's just who I
Same.
am. And at your visits and stuff like that, this is like a side tangent. When I was going to visits, I feel like some people would look at me like, what is she ignoring me? And I would always have to say, I'm just writing down notes. I'm listening to everything. I'm actually really intently listening, just writing down
Yeah.
notes. I'm not texting.
And you can say that.
Yeah.
Tell your doctors or your nurse, like, oh, I'm going to record this so that I can listen later. Like, of course, they'll say, cool.
Okay, before we go, I didn't forget about our giveaway. So Jennifer and I are so thrilled that you have listened all the way to the end of the podcast today. And we hope that you follow Cozeecoo and the OurForeverSmiles account on Instagram. Here are the rules. First, you have to be following both accounts, as I shared. We want you to comment Cozeecoo on both of our latest posts. And then you can share your favorite post from either account to your stories. And what we'll do is we'll select 2 winners at random and then announce it on our stories on Friday. So how does that sound, Jennifer?
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Just thank you so much again, Jennifer, for just being on and sharing your story with us and just your willingness to do this work. It's really incredible. And I just appreciate that on behalf of the Cleft community. This is invaluable. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel the same about you. I feel like I've met a dear friend, and this has been really incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to the OurForeverSmiles, Cleft Mom Diaries, and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.
Bye.